Welcome to Wild Contemplations with Kristin and Cori. I am Kristin. I am a 1-3 emotional projector in human design, and my astrology big three are Sag Sun, Libra Moon, Pisces Rising. Excited about this conversation because it's very active in my design, so I'm excited to contemplate it with Cori here. And yeah, Cori and I are taking a journey around the wheel, just speaking to our lived experience as the different gene keys are illuminated by the sun. And then we speak also to their programming partner in the earth, and then weaving in aspects of astrology, human design, and just our feels. So, Cori.
Thank you. My name is Cori. I am a 4-6 sacral manifesting generator, a Cancer Sun, Virgo Moon, and Virgo Rising. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be on this adventure with all of you. Last week, we were contemplating the sun in 31 and the earth in 41. We also had a full moon in 41 um, in the time since we've last met. And then today we will be contemplating those keys that Kristin was talking about that are quite active in her design, the sun in 33 and the earth in 19. But before we do our little check-in, why don't we just ground into the space together with our usual 3 breaths. So if it feels good to soften your gaze or close your eyes, maybe bring a hand to the body. And as we begin to settle in together, taking 3 breaths. All right, I will go ahead and just share the frequency bands of both sets just since, yeah, we had that full moon and everything. Um, but we've been in this energy for a couple of days now. But we were in 31, the sun in 31, with the frequency bands of arrogance, leadership, and humility. And we had the earth in 41 with the frequency bands of fantasy, anticipation, and emanation. And that's where the full moon was on the 29th. And then the sun has now moved into the 33 with the frequency bands of forgetting, mindfulness, and revelation. And the earth is in 19 with the frequency bands of codependence, sensitivity, and sacrifice. So we will just kind of check in and see what's been coming up for us since we last met, which actually feels like it's been a long time ago, but I don't think it's even been like a full week.
Yeah. No, it was Monday. So
Yeah.
almost a week, but
Yeah.
yeah. So this week for me, like as I mentioned last time, I was coming back from vacation. So this week was really all about, oh, it's pouring rain right now. Lots of cleansing going on. I think that's also, by the way, why I'm yawning. I keep yawning, which I yawn a lot to move energy. So must be moving a lot during this episode. So just, yeah, I'll just say that there. But anyways, I came back from vacation. And so this week was really about, me kind of settling back into my rituals and routines and organizing. Like whenever I feel I didn't even feel overwhelmed, but what I was going to say was when I feel overwhelmed, organizing usually helps me just feel more stable and grounded from that space. Um, I just, I guess I just wanted a grip, if you will, on, um, yeah, like being back home and what am I focused on right now? And I was very focused this week. I worked a lot on my branding and was just very much in a get shit done kind of mode. Um, and that felt good, honestly. I can't say that I felt very emotional, although I know quite a few people that were very emotional with the moon. And sometimes, sometimes I feel those energies and sometimes I don't. So this time around, I wasn't, I actually was on the other side of it. I was much more grounded, and rooted in, actually, I would say. How about you?
Yeah, I also was getting back from traveling and I was catching up on some like gatherings that I missed that were recorded, and I had a call um, midweek or maybe Thursday as part of those gatherings. So I was like catching up on the one that I missed from the week before, and then um, meeting this week with that. It was like a quick transit that was or not transit, but like a 3 week sort of mastermind. Um, and it was really like touched my heart in a deep way and like really connected me with a lot of my dreams and visions of the future that have kind of like lived in me, seeing them kind of like come to life. And they felt really connected to what we're doing here and also in the Weavers, and just really getting clear on like the things that are lighting me up right now, and the yeah, the way that I'm moving forward with things. So that I felt like, I guess, an excitable energy and like a um just seeing into the possibilities, really feeling um so much of what I connected with when I was traveling and what was coming through as I was reflecting my solar return, just felt like it started to kind of connect together and I could see it happening in real time. And yeah, I got to have a little celebration with some of my other friends. We meet for like the turns of the wheel, so like the cross quarter days, and then we also celebrate each other's solar returns. And again, feeling that like those places and spaces where um, that circular leadership that we talked about last week exists, and where each person's kind of gifts and unique expression is just alive and welcome and supported. So that was like a really big part of my week. And then I've felt the shift as the sun has moved into the 33 and the earth in the 19. Um, it's when the sun moves into the 33 is when I'm coming to the end of my um year in terms of like the wheel. It's my 12th house, so it's like the last month before I start a new turn of the wheel in terms of like the sun moving into my first house. And I always have a bit of a retreat for that month and like go into a more introspective space. So it was like I could feel like maybe more extroverted energy, excitement, and then I felt the shift. And these last couple of days, I felt much more reflective and just like kind of wanting to pull my energy in a bit to review, to integrate, and um, yeah, to kind of just settle into receiving as I close out a big cycle, especially how it lands with like my birthday and everything. That was a lot, but
Mm. So what do you attribute that excitement to? I have two questions. What do you attribute the excitement to? Like, I'm curious if is that really the power of like the solar return and the sun, illuminating for you who you are in this next, you know, chapter of your life? And my other question is, I'm super curious about, because you and I've talked about this before, just personally, this wave of like, I'm super excited and then I want to retreat. So is that a pattern, or is it this turn of the wheel, as you say?
I love this question. I think especially right now that it's certainly the turn of the wheel. Like I can feel it's just the way that kind of like where my birthday lands again, like and the keys that follow it, and then moving into this energy where the sun is getting ready to move into my 12th house. I've really made this. My Mercury lives in my 12th house, and Mercury is my chart ruler. And the 12th house is I consider myself like a 12th house person. I have a lot of deep connection, and I've lived a lot in the 12th house, and that's where I kind of like communicate and receive information and learn, and I've gotten to make friends with it because if you've ever kind of looked at some of the descriptions of the 12th house, they're kind of like uh you know but I think that in terms of astrology and working with the archetypes, I like to just like feel into what does it mean to me, not what does it say that it means in a book or something like that. Certainly we can look at those things and like keep them in mind, but like what does it mean to me? And when I started really kind of communicating with that house that is a little, well, it's just like everything. It's where everything comes, but it's also just it's a bit more nebulous, and again, it can have some interesting connections to it, like um, you know, institutions, hospitals, prisons, things like that, self-undoing, um, addiction. It's ruled by um, Neptune. And so it has a lot with it. But I have Leo there and I have my Mercury and Leo there. And my creativity really comes alive when I actually retreat, when I have time to myself to process. It's just something that I've learned about myself through trying different things and um, and yeah, seeing what feels best. And always around this time of year, I just feel a call to slow down. I get a little quieter. I don't necessarily feel as called to be like out there. And I see what wants to come through. And a lot of times it is kind of like, again, reflecting on the year that has come. Um, and the things that came through in those transits leading up to that, in my 11th house. So, yeah, I would say now, and I would say really too, I think that this is how my energy, at least right now, operates. And I think it actually has a lot to do with my sixth line and being on the roof. Um, I
I was
think it's a
just
really
thinking the
big
same
part of,
thing.
yeah.
I was like, I wonder if this is gonna shift when she's off the roof.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
that it will. Like, this isn't something that I really felt called to, or I mean, in my like first 30 years of life, I obviously didn't have the awareness that I have now. But it wasn't something that I felt called to do then. Um, but now, especially in the last few years, um, it just feels right, I guess is the best
Hmm.
way I can explain it.
Yeah. I imagine that I've always felt that contemplative energy in you. And I think it'll stay with you throughout your life. It just might look a little different um, when you're off the roof. I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like, but it'll be interesting to see. But I was very much feeling this. I was like going to ask you that question or just, say, I wonder if it has to do with your sixth line. Um, yeah, very interesting. When was the full moon? Remind me.
It was on the 29th. So I think if we met on Monday, then the full moon was on Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay. Because I was just reflecting about the week and remembering, on Friday is my goddess day. So it's the day that I don't do work and I come back and attend to myself. And I did actually have a rough day that day. Um, and that could have been related to the full moon. I'm not sure. It could also have been related to just overstimulation in general. But I found it hard to relax, um, which was interesting. When did we move into the 33?
Yeah, so that actually would have been on maybe Thursday or yeah, like later Thursday maybe, some point Thursday. So
Yeah,
right after the
interesting.
full moon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go run through the frequency bands one more time and share the human design and I Ching
Mm-hmm.
um, information, and we can really get into it. Um, so 33, the sun moved in there on Thursday. Um, I guess I shouldn't say that it was in the afternoon, but it was sometime on Thursday. So we have the frequency bands of forgetting, mindfulness, and revelation. In human design, this lives in the throat center. So we've been moving through those throat center gates. This will be the final throat center gate. So from the end of Taurus season through Gemini, and then a few in Cancer and Leo, we have moved through all of the gates of the throat. Um, and so this lives in the throat. It reaches towards the G center. And in human design, it's called the gate of privacy. It's a stop codon in the gene keys. We've talked about those with the 56 and the 12. So we had one in Gemini season, we had one at the cusp of Cancer Leo, and now we have the final one here in like full Leo. And this is like in terms of like the mythic trial, this is actually the first. So it's like our forgetting. Then it goes the 56, the distraction, and then the final one is the 12, vanity. But we actually the sun moves through them the opposite way. So that's kind of interesting. But again, with the stop codons, a lot of times we will feel a little bit of a pause. And all of the stop codons to me really connect with like a storyteller energy as well. So this gate is a gifted storyteller. They like to like again kind of retreat and reflect, kind of um, center in with the information, and then like tell the story. And then in the I Ching, this translates to retreat. You have this in your personality or natal north node. And it's also in your design moon, which is a sphere in the gene key sequencing, in the Venus sequence, particularly called the sphere of attraction. So that will be fun to kind of explore today as well. And then we have the Earth in the 19 with the frequency bands of codependence, sensitivity, and sacrifice. In human design, it's the gate of wanting, and it lives in the root center and reaches towards the emotional solar plexus. In the I Ching, it translates to approach. And I love in Richard's contemplation, he kind of talks about like the the way in which we allow life and others to approach us. The 19 is incredibly sensitive to the needs of others, the needs of the tribe. It's very tuned in to like what's going on with everybody and what everybody needs. And sometimes they can know that, like if you have a really deep connection to this energy, you can know that before other people even know it themselves, and it can make it kind of difficult because it's a projected energy, so it's you need it's asking us to wait for the invitation, but a lot of times again because you can just kind of like know what someone needs or wants, there can be this feeling of like just doing it. But the wisdom here is allowing um the kind of space for others to approach us and not us like go out and try to fix everything for others. There's a deep sensitivity to animals too here, like a deep connection to animals, and so he describes it anyways. I kind of got off track, but he describes it as like, an animal that's maybe kind of like scared or doesn't maybe hurt or doesn't know you very well. You wouldn't just like go up to it and try to like pet it or hug it or something, You would kind of like give it some space and let it know that you are there, and then kind of watch as it starts to feel more comfortable and like comes to you instead. I thought that I would share that because that always, yeah, I always like the vision of that when I hear the word for the I Ching
Hmm.
translation. So, okay. You have
This
your
is,
um you have your south node here. And this also creates a channel in your chart. So, I'm sure you'll have lots to say because I always think the south node is the energy that we're like most familiar with.
mhm. This is so interesting. I feel like the 19 is definitely calling me a little bit more than the 33 right now, at least, although as I share, Corey's going to say, I can feel both of these in here. But I I'm often a step ahead of people. So when I even if I'm working with someone on a project or something, I'm always like sort of anticipating and on to the next step. And this has gotten me into a lot of trouble because people are like, wait, why are you there? I need you here right now. I'm like just constantly like anticipating. So that's definitely been something that has been a point of frustration for me, I think, because I feel like I'm slowing down. Like it forces me to slow down um in a way that I think my mind says is inefficient. This is inefficient to do it this way because I already know that I know the next step, so I'm already I'm already there. Anyways, story of my life. The other interesting thing, as were talking about the animals, is I did this Reiki session once with this woman in Jacksonville, and I'm very particular about who I let do energy work with me, and sometimes when I was traveling, I would feel called to like get Reiki or get some sort of healing service or experience a new type of healing modality. And I was referred, I sort of talked to the connections I had there and was referred to this woman. And I trusted it. I trusted this is the woman I'm supposed to go to because I'm feeling like whatever, right? So I go to her, and the first thing she says to me when she finishes the session, she said, I got animal priestess energy from you. And I've never really related to to priestess energy. I've never really thought, I don't know, I've never really felt like I want to claim my priestess energy or whatever. But when she said animal priestess, like I just felt it in my whole body. And I was like, yes, this is it. Um, and I actually really love working with animals that seem like timid or shy. And I don't know, and just speaking to them. I remember in my travels, I was always looking for encounters with animals in nature. And I never had a ton of them. I had this really cool hawk experience when I was in Florida one time. That was probably most recently, but before I wanted to, like, when I was in Arizona, I wanted to see like tarantulas and the desert, and I just wanted to see all, kinds of unique things. And it wasn't until I went to Pennsylvania and I was hiking and I was walking on this really thin trail and I was looking down because there was a lot of rocks on the trail and I came up and I was probably, I mean, within a few inches of a rattlesnake. And she wasn't rattling. She was just there, like about to cross. Like I must have just not felt threatening to her. And as soon as I saw her within those few inches, I just like, calmly backed up. And then she started rattling. And I actually spoke to her, um, to calm her rattling. And she eventually crossed. I actually have a video of me doing that. And people were like, "Are you insane? Like that's she was a big girl, huge rattlesnake." And I'm just talking to her like, like she's my friend. So I think that's kind of fun. Something I will say, I'm having all these like remembrances of things that are coming through in the last week. And one of the things that I did experience or realize, and I'm curious to kind of put it through the lens of these gene keys, I realized that I came off this journey of traveling for 4 years, and I realized that not I'm not being as adventurous while I'm here in Buffalo. Um, and I'm not going on adventures. And I've sort of lost, that part of me. Like I haven't, yeah, I haven't maintained that. Or there's something about the energy of Buffalo that just kind of puts me in this space that eventually makes me feel stagnant. And I've left Buffalo a few times and come back, which is interesting. And I've been sitting with this. Am I coming back to Buffalo to show me that I don't have to be stagnant here? Um, and what is it that really stops me from bringing that adventure and nature element? Really being out in nature through my travels was something that was very activating for my gifts and abilities, and I've gotten away from that. And I feel like there's a part of me that feels like I've lost a little bit of my magic, even though I know that when I'm in spaces, when I'm doing readings, when I'm hosting events, I know that I provide a wonderful experience for people, right? I know that just being in the healed energy and grounded energy that I exude, it's very activating for people. And yet I still feel and know that there's a part of my magic that's not like it could be even more than what it is right now. And so that was really hard for me to realize and also notice, like, the way my mind wants to say it's other things. Like it's whether that's the environment that I'm in or the fact that Buffalo is, got so many wintry months or um that Buffalo is not as progressive of a city or whatever that I want to blame it on. It's easy to point on the outside and say, or a big one actually is that there's nothing new for me to explore. Because I love exploring new places. Just the excitement, the not knowing of what I'm going to come across is so it's it's just very nourishing for me. And I feel like I've explored all the trails here, like and not multiple times. Like I'm sure there's places I could go that look entirely different now, that I haven't explored in a number of years that are magical and there's places that aren't far. Like Letchworth State Park is well known in New York State and it's not that far from me. Niagara Falls isn't that far. And I can go and spend time in this incredible energy, like going and sitting on the rocks next to Niagara River, like just bustling and flowing the way that it does is super powerful. And when's the last time I did that, you know? So that's been something interesting that has come up for me. I would say I'll pause there. Um, I'm sure I'll talk more about it, but I'll pause for a moment there.
I'm just like nodding and smiling. It's so interesting because this has been a similar kind of contemplation of mine. This especially, well, a lot of times when I'm traveling, I'm just like, ah, this is me. Like I come alive when like you said, I come alive when I travel. It feels very like it feels very grounding to me actually. I feel more stable when I'm traveling. Um, I feel more alive. I just feel lit up and excited. And it's like just leaning into the adventure of life and being in the moment. And I just really on this last trip was like, I really feel called to be doing more of this. And I've done a lot of it over the last several years now. Um, like if I was saying this to a lot of people, I'd be like, I need to travel more. They'd be like, how could you possibly travel more? You like travel quite a bit. But for me, it's just like I think that I want that to be what I'm doing, move to a more nomadic lifestyle. And I've been reflecting, like when I was coming home, I was like, okay, in the interim, until I figure out like what I'm going to be doing and how to make this kind of work. Like at home, can I, wake up and like treat each day as an adventure? And I was having all these ideas about what I was going to do when I came home. But it's just like when I came home, then I don't, it's like I didn't do that. Like I had the plans to wake up and oh, I'll go to this park or I'll just drive and like go to a different little town nearby or something. Um, I think just in my particular uh contemplation, what I'm noticing is like, yeah, when I'm here, the sun is like shining so brightly. Right now, you can't even see my face. Um, when I'm here, it's like I'm kind of lost in a way. Like, so it's kind of like the opposite of like you would think maybe when I'm traveling, I would feel kind of like, uh, all over the place or like not have my footing or feel lost because I'm in a new place, but it's actually the opposite. It's like it's here I feel kind of lost. Um, so I don't know that I have any like wisdom to share, but just to say that actually this has been a deep contemplation of mine and that I can feel deeply into what you're speaking to.
Hmm. Yeah. I even in my brand session that I had this week, it the idea came to me of, yeah, the woman I'm working with, she had posted a video of her um doing this like artwork with flowers. Um and it reminded me that I've always been interested in creating art with nature. And this is where I felt like I could go visit spaces that I'd been in and maybe see them from a new lens.
Mhm.
And I'm always recognizing beauty. If I go on like a mile hike that, should take you 30 minutes, I'm out there for like 2 hours, taking pictures, touching trees, just looking at just magical little elements, like finding, mushrooms that are like 10 times the size of my head, or just finding these these moments that just are so exciting to me. I lose myself. Like time doesn't exist when I'm out in nature. And I'm like a little kid, just finding new things and just so excited about nature and the perfection. Um and so I was thinking maybe this is part of the next exploration, right? Like sitting and creating, mandalas with elements of nature. It's something that I've always done um, when I host intuitive circles all over the country. I would go out before I hosted and I would collect different elements that were alive in that area at the time, and I would create little altars in the circles that I hosted just to bring in the elements of the land that we were there, right? To be in space with us. And so I've done it to a certain degree, but I think this is something that I'm feeling called to go back with and explore. And something that, one of my gifts that did come online when I was traveling was connecting to the land and speaking intuitively to the land. And I've had visions of maybe even doing like land activations, like events outside where I'm activating people through the land from an intuitive aspect. So all of that hasn't really come to fruition yet. Sometimes when these visions come to me, I just let them kind of ride out in their own timing and see how it wants to evolve and express through me. But in the meantime, this art element is feeling alive for me. Um, so, when I look at that through the lens of the 33, for example, I feel like this is, more of a remembrance. It's like me recognizing the spaces that invite me to remember who I am, like what my true nature is, what my pure essence feels like. That's the invitation from the 33 to me, like in just everything I was just expressing with what I've been feeling. It's like this, I don't know, like I question how I repeated that pattern for so many years, like so many times. Why did it take this long for me to recognize that I'm not really stagnant here. I don't have to be stagnant anywhere. Um, that there's always magic around. But it's through the lens, the identity that I'm holding and experiencing my environment through that creates my quote unquote reality. And so, how do I, as you were saying, like, how can I wake up every day and experience adventure, right? Just in, walking out into the kitchen and seeing, the sun shining on the floor and reflecting things, or like just little magical moments throughout the day. Like, how can it all be an adventure? How do I live through that identity instead of this identity of how much longer do I need to stay in Buffalo? Right. And also, there's a lot that I'm building here too, in terms of community and reputation and all of that. And that's magical. It doesn't take away from me wanting to travel and move and experience other things. But yeah, there's definitely there's definitely an invitation to come back to that different lens, to recognize that it's my identity, it's me who is I'm the problem. I'm the problem. I am the fucking problem, Cori.
Oh, the forgetting. Yeah, as you were sharing, I was thinking more that maybe in places where we're stationary, it's a bit, I don't want to say easier isn't the word that I want to use, but it's the word that's coming through right now. To get attached to a certain identity, right? Like, um, I think, like we were saying, when you're traveling, there's this openness there, and you're taken out of the day to day, yeah, that identity that kind of can sometimes put blinders up, maybe. Um, and it's like there's more openness there for the fullness of us to come through rather than like the kind of uh yeah, version that we can get caught up in um when we're like yeah, in the same place. Um and so that's really interesting to just consider and explore. The 33 I can see too in the way that you share like how nourishing rituals are to you. I see it that like being very connected to your sun in the fifth gene key, but also this 33 and your north node because it is connected um to rituals, to the things that like yeah, center us, bring us home, um, slow us down, like open us up too. Um, I always think with this 33, again, the way that I experience it, because it lives on that cusp of my 12th house. And when I go into this, I didn't always like, I started doing this before I knew that the 33 lived on my, so I was like, it wasn't like I did this because I saw a retreat there and I was like, whoo, yay. That's what I should do. I actually just kind of connected the dots retrospectively. Um, But I think one of the things that when I think about the retreat that I take and this time of year. And two, because retreats are kind of like what I'm moving towards, like what I would like to offer around the world in different places. And what always comes through is like it is a time to just be in our fullness, to be like the fullness of who we are and to be relaxed in that and to show up just as we are. Again, it's like a lot of what we talk about in our spaces of like um, knowing that it's us that the world is kind of yearning for. And so I love creating spaces for myself and for others where we can come together and just be and remember that and not have like a schedule or an itinerary or oh just like things that we have to uh kind of perform for or like specifically do, but just kind of letting whatever is alive within us in that moment come through and to to be held in a place where we can kind of relax. I just feel like so much of the world is like sped up and like very urgent and the 33 to me feels like floating. Like that's just what I imagine is just this like where you can just let it all go and float. Um, and it's like I think sometimes having the space where we do uh retreat or where we do kind of have some time and space to ourselves is so helpful because if we think about the programming partner, the 19, like we are a lot of times taking in so much information from the world around us. Like I think we're all super sensitive in our own ways. Um, and that sensitivity can it's powerful. It's a strength for sure. It's a gift, right? We're receiving information from the world around us, and it can be through, again, connections with animals, connections with the land, connections with others, connections like interdimensionally. You shared a lot about, sometimes going to different places and communicating. And so there's a lot for us to explore, and it's a gift. But then I think there's this sweet spot again because if it becomes like oversensitivity or we're taking in too much of the information, then it becomes that like codependency, and then it's hard to hear um what's going on here. I know I've shared this before, but I'll just share it again because it's a big part of um, my practice and what's been helpful for me um, is like taking that regular time, like making it a thing that I regularly kind of disconnect and come into my own space so that I can center and so that I can listen and so that I can remember. Because when I'm receiving a lot of information, it can kind of blur the lines. Like, and again, can get caught up in just that, like, um, in Richard's contemplation of the 19, he talks about like the drama of life, like getting caught up in the kind of illusion and play of it all. Like you forget that this is just the show. And that you're an actor or actress and you're playing a role, and that all these things are going on, but that's not the full of it. But sometimes we can get swept up in it where we do have that forgetting. And so those regular like touch point moments, rituals, just space and time to self, however feels best for us, is like incredibly supportive, I feel.
Mhm. And necessary.
Yeah.
I feel like that's that gets to be the moment, like identity is very alive for me in this conversation. So um the taking a moment to detach and come back to self, like you were saying, it's it's a moment, and you mentioned 33 floating. It's this moment where we just get to suspend in um our energy. It's we get to be identityless, you know. And I think that that's important as we navigate this world because there's so many elements that are trying to pull us in. And so another like now with the 19 and the codependence and sacrifice sensitivity piece, like it's what I'm feeling is again that the identity. So me bringing up like the stagnancy, right? And me being attached to this like buffalo is stagnant for me identity. Um there's nothing new for me to explore here identity. But also like a big aspect I mentioned, I was very like focused and driven in my business this week, right? So this identity of who I am in my business or what my business needs to be in its identity. And then, like the relationship that I'm in and who am I in this relationship? And like the codependence piece is this to tie them together. It's almost like this, as much as I can see for others, I think I have a hard time seeing this in myself, but it's this, um, I forget that I can pull out of that. That identity is not, it's not who I am. And Ram Dass speaks a lot to this in his work, and becoming the formless, right? Releasing every identity that we've had. And I don't think I ever really understood it fully. Um, Eckhart Tolle, same thing when he talked about being the witness. Like I didn't understand it until I understood it, and I could just feel it in my bones. And now I feel like I have this new vision, this new version of identity and what it's created or what it's inhibited in my life, and just how codependent I am on it. And so what would it look like now if I started creating from a space of being formless or identityless? What what would that feel like? And I feel like I've done this in a sense when I came out of corporate and I shifted, from making head decisions to making intuitive decisions. Like that's a part of it, but it's so much bigger than that, right? Even that can be an identity, right? I'm going to go into intuitive Kristin land and see where I'm supposed to go, right? Um, so what would that look like now if I started creating from a space of the true formless, the true suspension, the true, I don't, I don't need to drive this. I don't need to drive anything. I can exist. I'm not quite there yet, admittedly. How can I just exist and contribute to the world? How do we do that?
This is like my thing. This is like one of my biggest visions. Um, and it's been so strongly coming through, especially this past year or two. like, yeah, the world that we live in is not necessarily set up to show that like we get to just exist. We don't have to do anything other than just be. And whatever that looks like in the moment. I'm not saying, that it's just whatever comes through. Um, and I see us like living in a world where if money is still a thing, that we are compensated just for being here. In that group that I was in, uh, the the woman running it, she was talking about like it's so weird that because a lot of people were coming forward and sharing things about money, right? Like, and she said it's so weird that we come to Earth and then we have to like pay to to be here, to live here. And I was thinking, that is so silly. Like, I feel like we came to Earth and we should get paid because we're here, just for being here. And I really see us like getting paid just to exist. Like, why not? Why shouldn't everybody just get paid to exist and see what happens? Like, I just think that it would be so different, because then nobody would be doing something because they felt like they had to for money or to exist or to survive, you know? Everybody would really be able to just be. But we have this right now. This is actually something that I've been deconditioning for the last several years. It's interesting. When I was like in my early 30s, but like right when I was coming um onto the roof, I was working in a job that was like making me sick. It was draining my life force. I was having all sorts of different health things coming up, and I just was very unhappy, and that was a big part of it. And so I felt so stuck for so long. Like I can't leave this job because I have to, pay my bills and like do all of the, like survive. So I stayed in it for quite a while. And then finally one day it just clicked, like, I can't stay in this anymore. I actually have to just leave. And then something will show up. Um, but I have to take the leap first. Like I can't wait for something to come first and comfortably like walk over to it. I just got the message like it's time now. The only thing that's stuck again is your thinking and your identity that you've created around this. So once you move out of this, then things will open up. And so I did, and things did open up in ways, but really since that time, and that was like in 2017. Yeah. So however long ago that is. Um, but I've been on this journey of really redefining work and like, again, like really sinking more into like, I believe that we can be us and like we can do this. It's not, I'm still, I'm still in the experiment of it. Um, it's asked me a lot of times to like deeply trust and move out of those identities. And it doesn't always or feel super comfortable, but I have lived a life that is much more me, and I've been supported in that, just in ways that I didn't, again, that aren't like you wouldn't expect, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, a few things are coming up for me. So first, have you read The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer?
I haven't. I feel like I've heard of it, so this must be I'm getting even little chills, so maybe I'm meant to read it.
Yeah, it's very much about him surrendering and not controlling his journey. So just saying yes to things as they come up and then seeing what unfolds and these incredible things just open up for him. I feel called to read it again because it's very relative to speaking to this and how, like, how do we create and contribute to the world by just existing, by just interacting in the world and seeing what unfolds before us, right? Just existing is not sitting in a corner like reading books all day, right? Um it's community forward. It's interaction. Um it's allowing our energy to be felt, not secluding and hiding, right? Um that in itself is such a contribution to the world. When we've done work to detach from norms and decondition and hold a different frequency, just walking around the world, walking around our neighborhood is felt. That is, um, felt in the earth, in the people that you pass by, and all of those things. So that's for sure a contribution. Um, Another thing when you were talking about the how in your group a lot of stuff around money was coming up and the leader was saying or the host was saying, isn't it crazy that we come here and we have to pay to exist here? I was listening to a podcast today and she was talking about middle class money mindset and how like she doesn't save money. Like she's like, I don't subscribe to this idea of saving money because like what are you saving for? And and if you think about I see this all the time with people who are like want to have kids, but they're like, I need to save enough money. I need to be prepared. I need to have that happen. If I want to leave a job, I need to save enough money so that I have an egg to support me. Right. So if we live from this mentality that it sort of extends this forever, like I'm living paycheck to paycheck, like money's not really expansive from that space. Whereas if you just live with money as a resource, right? And you're just like, whatever I need, I'm just going to use the money I have or the resources that I have that I've been, you know, gifted. And I've been resourced a lot on my journey in very unexpected ways as well. Right? Whether that was like staying at an Airbnb for free for multiple months in a very like healing space, right? Like just being, it might not come in the form that you expect, but I certainly manifested that when I continued to ask to be resourced to do this work and be of service, right? So, um, she talks about living from this space of just treating money as a resource and not as something that you have to be grippy with, or save in order to uh, achieve your dreams or to pursue your dreams. Um, Another example that she gives is like if if I can afford to buy a car with cash and I'm living from this, more expansive space of overflow, then I would take a loan, for example, on that car because I know that the money that I have, if invested, is going to bring back more interest in the interest I would pay to have that loan, right? Um, Instead of just like, oh, I saved up $5,000, I'm going to go buy a car now and just give, right? And then you sort of end up in this paycheck to paycheck circumstance or mentality, which is very middle class, or is at least a version of it. Um, so I thought that was really interesting. I can't remember. There was something else that came up that I wanted to comment on, and now I don't remember what that was, but I spent too much time talking about the living from overflow and not the middle class um, stuff, but that's what was supposed to come through.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that the sun is just continuing to like take away my entire face. So it does really feel like peeling back the identities.
Hmm.
Um, I love this about the money too. I think it's something just really expansive to hear. Like again, that the way that we see modeled to us
Hmm.
of doing this, the identities around being, financially stable and yeah, following these middle class mindsets, whatever we want to call them. It's it's expansive to hear other ways of doing and being again because it's like, oh wait, like yeah, we don't have to do it like that. And maybe doing it like that is coming from this place of lack, right? Like, oh, there's not going to be enough, so we have to like get it all together. Oop, my little stone just flew. We have to like get it all together first. And then yeah, like you said, it's like, then you're um feeling the lack as you're saving because you're like putting that there. It's not having access to it. And then when you do spend that, then it's like you started over from zero again. Like it's just, I can hear it in a lot of the conversations of people in my orbit growing up in my condition, like
Hmm.
the conditioning there is strong. Um, and it is so intertwined with like, yeah, I guess just like being responsible or having it together, like being stable or being safe or secure or something, right? But like that doesn't really exist. Like, you know? Um, so yeah, I feel like you said it's a conversation and something that was meant to be shared. And again, I think the power of these energies, like you were saying, like to find this beautiful balance between like coming back to center and moving slow and pausing and like really like taking yourself out of this kind of what it feels like actually. I love for Leo season, I love to think of this energy as like yeah, like an actor, right? And so, like, there's all of these different ways that we get to play with that. Um, but it's like, okay, we go put on this costume, we play this role. We just don't forget that that's not um all of us, like that is just something that we're doing. We're going out into the world, we're expressing ourselves, we're playing, we're being creative, we're sharing our truth in that moment. But then like the coming back and knowing like, but it's so much more than that. Like that's not all of it, you know? That's kind of what I feel there. And I guess I feel that too in the money stuff is like it's more about playing with things in a creative way, and having fun with it, but not getting so caught up in thinking that that's the whole of it, that that's what's gonna, yeah, keep us safe or something.
Hmm. There's definitely an identity tied to money too. And another thing I didn't mention with the saving aspect is the paying off debt, which is very, again, middle class mindset, right? I can't have debt. I better save so that I can pay off my debt. And instead of viewing debt as an extension of money that you have, right? Debt allows us to collapse time to access something, right? So what if we just treated money as a resource and not anything tied to our identity, our identity? There are plenty of people out there who have a lot of money and who are miserable in life, who still feel insecure about the amount of money that they have, who still, feel like they have to save pennies and try to get, the best deal. And, again, that grippy energy, right? Something that I've always, or, that I've felt for a while now actually was, when I started my business, I wasn't contributing to my retirement for a long time because, and honestly, I don't, any money that I set aside now, I contribute to an investment, not to a retirement. And for a long time, I mean, like coming out of corporate, I very quickly shifted my mindset around that, in that I believe that me walking on earth doing my life's work, there's no way that I can't be supported. No way. Like it's the only reason I'm here. So how could I fail? How could I not be successful? How could I not be resourced to serve in this way when I chose to quote unquote wake up and do this work, right? To exist in this way. Um, so for a long time, I said I had a lot of conversations, especially with my parents around, because they're asking me if I'm contributing to my retirement, and the answer was no, and it was always, I believe I'll be supported. I don't believe I have to catch up or any of that. I believe that I'll be supported, um, and I do. I do. I very much believe that, and continue to hold that faith that I will be resourced and supported doing, committing to my life's work. Um, and again, I think there was another thing I was going to say that I lost here, but um, I think that, oh, I'm listening to this class. I'm in this group right now, this group program, and she's actually talking a lot about identity as well. And she, had brought forth, like, every time we respond to something in our environment, asking the question, did this feel good to me? Like, what identity am I responding to this from? And is that what I want to hold? Right? So do I want to, like, file that away, or do I want to um, release it and choose again? And this is kind of like when I've I talk to people about coaching, and I say coaching is stepping into a journey with a coach is so much about questioning every part of you you thought you knew who you were, and every belief, every system, every action that you blindly take. Like, it's questioning all of those things and saying, is this really who I am? And so, very similarly here, right? When we respond to things, or, on Friday when I was just having a temper tantrum all day because I'm like, I don't feel relaxed. Like, this isn't a goddess day. What identity am I responding from there? What am I holding on to? How quickly can I recognize that and release the part of me that's not allowing me to see other perspectives, or to perpetuate a response that I don't want to have, you know, that's limited. I don't want that. It doesn't feel good to me. So why am I sitting in it? Why am I sitting in this limited experience of my day that, it's 5 o'clock on Friday and I still don't feel relaxed? Like, what's wrong? And like I said earlier, it's so easy to blame everything else around me, all the inputs that are around me. Um, Instead of me just saying I can choose differently. I can choose a different identity. So again, I go back to like how can I show up every day and just continue to release these identities, and honestly just open up to expansion and surrender. How can I just surrender and see, witness all the possibilities that are around me and live from this space of, holy shit, look at all I can do all the time. And it's not to, wash away anything that, is emotional or felt or feels hard, or like, it's not to wash away any of that, or just say that like I can just live from this like magical unicorn space all the time. There's always going to be um, experiences, reflections, triggers that are reflected back to us. But again, how we choose to respond to them is entirely up to us. It's up to us to recognize there's a pattern here. Why do I keep coming back to Buffalo and feeling stagnant when I'm in Buffalo? What is my pattern? What is it trying to show me? And I don't think that's a coincidence that I came back multiple times, right? This is one of my lessons. This is one of the things I'm invited to see.
Also, I feel like we're gonna look at your um like relocated chart in Buffalo. I think that would be cool. Like, have you looked at that before or like
The astrocartography.
yeah.
I have, and I feel like there is a line that goes through ish this area, and I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah. I think it would just be fun to explore that again, because if we're talking about like kind of having fun and playing with the identities, like this is one thing that I love. I think too about traveling is like each place we go is going to bring alive a different part of us because our chart will shift, you know. I mean, um, so it might be slightly depending on, you know, where you were born. But there will be some little shift there. And I think that that's kind of cool to understand. It's like the chart doesn't change, right? Like all of that's still there, but the way that it's expressed kind of will shift a little bit. And so that's kind of fun for me, at least, to explore. A lot of times it happens like after, I don't think that I've ever went to a place to like picked a place for that, but a lot of times like I'll be going to a place or have been to a place and I'll look at it and it will like so much will make sense, you know?
Yeah. I find a lot of this work is like that with the transits and everything, which you and I've talked about before.
Yeah.
I think it's probably time to wrap up for today at least. So, how are you feeling? Is there anything else on your heart that you want to express to feel complete?
I feel complete, I think. Yeah.
Hmm.
Trust in
Yeah.
everything that unfolded and feeling good. I'm glad.
Hmm.
uh, Before coming here, my day was kind of like, whoo. But now I feel like grounded, and I'm just really grateful for this space here with you, Kristin. Thank you for going on this adventure with me and all of
Hmm.
you listening and joining in with us. You're here with us anytime you listen, and that's kind of cool too. And so I just want
Hmm.
to send love to all of you and thank you.
Mm. I echo that. I do. Um, yeah, a lot of big contemplations, especially with the identity and becoming identityless, and just what landed for me in particular. I think it landed with me a little differently in my cells. And so I'll be interested to see how it continues to unfold. Maybe listen to some more Ram Dass and maybe read The Surrender Experiment again. So, um, thank you again for being here, for sharing and commenting and where you guys are experiencing these energies, where and how you're experiencing them. It's always illuminating to hear other people's perspectives and lived experience. So thank you. And we shall see you all in a few days or later this week. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And next time, see you next time.